Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. You ready for this, buddy? You excited for Strange New Worlds?
Yes, I'm very excited. It's been a long time since we saw the last Strange New World, so
Yeah.
it's wonderful that it's back on again. It's so great, kind of crept up on both of us and like it was coming out and we're like, wow, it's already come out again. So it's so great to have Strange New Worlds back. I'm definitely ready to talk about episode one on season three, and we can share our thoughts like all over the solar system, all over the globe, and for people to listen. It'd be wonderful. It'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you. Doing plenty of work travel
Yeah.
these last couple weeks.
You're not busy at all, are you?
So, um, yeah, I was fortunate to be able to squeeze in and watch like some Strange New Worlds, like as I was saying to you, like we were talking about like what we were watching. Um, And so literally like I think Star Trek Strange New Worlds is the only thing I've been able to like fit into watch. So it is wonderful that we're able to do this. How have you been, my friend? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been busy, man. I've been training up for doing a new job temporarily for a few months, and it involves shift work, and so I'm not looking forward to that. And it's going to make it quite interesting, attempting to find time to fit in to watch stuff and record for our
Yeah.
podcast, but I will make it happen. Even if I am a zombie, I will still make it happen because we've mentioned many times before that we both need this. It's very good for our mental health. And it's
Yeah.
a great time. We can just we just get to sit here now, Chris, for the next hour and a half, however long we talk, and just put everything aside and just focus on stuff we like and enjoy. And it's a much needed break, much needed dose from reality.
Yeah. We are both gonna be like we're gonna be like those zombies from that Vulcan ship on Enterprise
Oh
that
yeah.
be
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
Maybe we should dress up as those zombies, those Vulcan zombies, like on a Halloween.
That would take a
Do
lot
that
of makeup, Chris.
in wood. Yeah.
And prosthetics.
Yeah. We gotta get the green blood. Like have that. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you already had green blood.
Indeed I do. Indeed I do.
Uh,
Indeed I do.
I thought you were already Vulcan, weren't you?
Yeah.
I thought you
Yeah.
told me you were Vulcan, no, part
Yeah.
Vulcan, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Part Vulcan. Yeah.
um, yeah, man, it's great to be back into Strange New Worlds. It does seem like it's been a while since the end of season two, and yet
Hmm.
it also doesn't at the same time. It's kind of weird. Like things have time's flown by. We've been so busy.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, Strange New World season two finished last year, I believe, right? So this
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
first. Yeah, we
Yeah.
haven't had any Strange New Worlds since last year. I don't remember when the season finale premiered, but it's been a minute since we've talked about Strange New Worlds. And I am so excited to dive back into this. I know you had an opportunity to go back and rewatch the season two finale to kind of get yourself in the right frame of mind for the premiere of season three. So I definitely think we should maybe kind of throw some stuff from that back in here to get everybody back on the same page before we jump into season three, episode one, Hegemony
Yeah.
Part Two.
Hegemony Part II. Yeah, because I was very fortunate that I had time to watch that season two finale, which was great because it definitely reminded me of what was going on. Um, this Hegemony like one, two sequence of episodes is really like terrific. Like we were talking earlier, I think the quality is outstanding. The story and the action is really compelling and fun. Keeps you really wanting to watch it. But it does feel like like a movie. It felt like a Star Trek movie or even an action movie
Yeah.
like by itself. And I know we've said that before about like other Star Trek two-parters, but this one kind of falls in line as well. It feels like, hey, this could be like a movie. And you know what? I'm actually surprised a Gorn movie like never materialized. Like when we start thinking about it, like
Yeah.
I mean they turned Khan into like this own like spectacular movie. Um, and a Gorn movie never happened.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That is true. You make a good point there. And even though the Gorn only had that one episode in TOS, it has
Mhm.
been a fan favorite for a long time, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's got that iconic like grapple between the Gorn captain and Captain Kirk. I mean,
Yeah.
that is like that's iconic.
Yeah, and not only is the episode iconic, not only is that grappling scene between the Gorn and Kirk iconic, but the music
Hmm.
of the episode arena is incredibly iconic, and we're gonna get into that and talk about the music. I think a little bit of season three, episode one, because I've got some really uh, big time comments to make about the music. We'll get there though for sure.
Yeah, we
Uh,
will. We will.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We got to talk about the music. It's incredible. So that being said, welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast, everybody. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're tuning to us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, we greatly appreciate that. Be sure to go to Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and check us out on those social media platforms. If you're listening to us on the audio side, you can find the video version of this episode and many others on our YouTube channel. And yeah, I've been posting quite a bit on our social media pages as we built up to release day and then release day of season three, episode one, and then to my surprise and excitement, as I'd mentioned to you, I think we talked on Thursday that not only did they release one episode, they released a second episode as well on Thursday, which was amazing. And we're going to talk about that episode here pretty soon. In fact, tomorrow I think we're going to talk about it, and then that episode will come out a couple days after this one does. But yeah, it's really cool to be back into this, and knowing how we left off at the end of season two gets you really excited. And also, I think you'd mentioned too, Chris, maybe a little tense given the cliffhanger that we saw.
Sure was tense. Like I've told you before that I really like Captain Batel.
Yeah,
So I think she's a great contrasting captain with Captain Pike. They have a great relationship. She really challenges him. She makes him think. And then and throughout this episode of Part Two, Hegemony, you see how much like he cares for her. Because I mean, not only does he want to rescue the colonists and the landing party, but like she's there and he wants to rescue her. And he's conflicted. Like Captain Pike is conflicted through this episode a lot because he's getting orders from Admiral April, um, that's talking about the demarcation line of what the Gorn has depicted. Um, and Starfleet and Admiral April essentially telling him to go back, stand down, don't do anything to aggravate or exacerbate the circumstance. Um, and but Captain Pike, he has to do what he has to do. He has to go and help the people. Um, Also, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but just a little bit of going back to Hegemony Part One,
yeah, because
like
I think
right,
that's
yeah.
important that we
Mhm.
reestablish what happened in part one and the cliffhanger that it left us waiting and waiting and waiting until July of
Yeah.
2025 to finally see the resolution to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it starts off on this colonist uh planet, which was great. And you know what I liked? These are just like little details, but it starts off on this colonist planet. I think it's Captain Batel's captain's log on the beginning
Yeah,
of Hegemony, like part one. And she has this little detail about the planet. She says the colonists wanted to make the colony resemble like Midwest 20th century, something like that. And it looked like a Midwest town, right? But I thought,
yeah,
connecting that to Toss, like where they'd go back and you'd see these colonies in Toss, and it looked like an old Midwest or old Western kind of town, and you'd be like why is that? But I just like that kind of little detail there. She's like, yeah, the colonists wanted to make it look like this, and so it looked like
yeah.
that. That was cool. Yeah. So,
And the
yeah,
colony, I believe, was Parnassus Beta. I think that was the name
Parnassus
of the
Beta.
colony, right? Because
Yeah.
the colonists are referred to as Parnassians or something like that. It almost sounds like they say Cardassians, but it's the Parnassians or whatever. The Parnassus colonists are mentioned a couple of times in Hegemony Part II, which we'll get into here in just a little bit.
You're right. They do refer to them as the Parnassians. And
Yeah.
so, well, just like, wouldn't that get confusing after a while? You've got all of these colonies, all these different planets, and you gotta call them. That would just be like so
Different things.
yeah, different
Yeah.
things. Be like,
You got to have like somebody with a ledger writing this stuff down, right? Because otherwise, how
yeah,
you keep it all? I guess you have the computer to help you keep it straight, right?
yeah, it would. I mean, they're just like, oh well. They were just Starfleet citizens, or were they Starfleet citizens? I don't know. They were human colonists, but
Yeah, but and we've seen that throughout different Star Trek series, right? Like there's a specific episode of Enterprise I remember that where these colonists went out into deep space and they landed or they landed on this planet, and then the people that the Enterprise comes across are descendants of the original crew that landed there, but they've kind of
mm,
reverted to almost a somewhat of a primitive form,
hmm.
living in caves and everything like that. And then that's not what the original colonist was meant to be. And people knew about them, right? Like people read about them. I think even Mayweather had read about them, and so kind of reminds me like this kind of stuff's been happening for a long time, and it makes sense, right? As humanity gets technology to go out into space
Hmm.
beyond the solar system, you would begin to think that people would eventually go out and find new places to live and get away from, Earth and other places and kind of establish their own settlement and their own way of life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah. So Captain Batel's starship, I want to say the Kaluga, but I'm going to get the name wrong on her ship, but it did start with a C. They're there helping out the colony, and the colony is invaded by the Gorn. And so you kind of see the beginning of this invasion when herself, Captain Patel and Captain Pike are FaceTiming essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's basically yeah.
they're
They're doing
they're
what we're doing, Chris. We're
yeah, they're
just having
doing
a video conversation.
yeah,
The
yeah, like
Cayuga, is that what you said it was?
Cayuga. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the Cayuga.
yeah,
Yeah.
Cayuga.
I had to look it up.
Yeah. And they're invaded by the Gorn. And
Yeah.
then that sets up the whole stage for episode one, where the Cayuga is destroyed, the colonists are in peril, the crew of the Cayuga that's down on the planet are in peril, and Enterprise comes to rescue them.
Yeah. And
And
Batel's
so
one of
yeah,
them, right? She's down
yeah.
there. And I
Batel's
think
one.
they get there and Batel's been injured,
Mm.
right?
We find out,
And
yeah, yeah, that she's been infected. Yeah, essentially.
yeah, she got attacked by the Gorn, and they bring her up to the Enterprise, and I believe that's kind of where we get that cliffhanger that they say, yeah, she's been infected, or either she says it or some doctor or somebody says it that she's infected, and we're all thinking. I remember when we watched that episode, we talked about it. We're like, they're gonna kill off Pike's love interest, like. I kind of like those two together. I like that chemistry. They were good together, and they're gonna kill her. Like, no, tell me,
Yeah,
say it ain't so.
it
And
ain't
now we
so.
get into Hegemony Part II, the conclusion where we find out whether or not Batel is going to die or she is going to survive a Gorn infection. Which,
Hmm.
so far from what we have seen in Strange New Worlds, nobody survives a Gorn infection, just like nobody survives a face hugger in Aliens and being infected and then having a xenomorph baby burst out of your chest and run off the ship.
Yeah. I get to just talk about the vibes I feel when I watch these Gorn episodes. Aliens
Yes.
is definitely a vibe that you feel, right? Um, Both the first Alien movie and the second Alien movie. Strangely enough, like in this episode, I also got the vibes of Independence Day.
Mm. Oh yeah, with the swarm of Gorn ships and the
Ah,
like the swarm of the alien ships on Earth and the
mm-hmm.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And when they there's this shot where it's following one of those Gorn fighters and it goes into that big huge Gorn ship and it
Mm.
goes into there, and I got this vibe of Independence Day when when you go into the one of those big ships, the mothership.
Interesting.
I also got a vibe, and I'm curious what vibes you got. I also got a vibe of the Matrix, uh, because they're, I mean, definitely like when they're in those kind of cocoons, um, you do have the vibe of aliens, but I also got the vibe of the Matrix because you come to the understanding that hey, they're in this, they're either used for energy or food, the those that are in being digested essentially in those tubes. Um, So yeah, got those kind of vibes. Aliens, Independence Day, The Matrix, another one that'll probably come to my mind like soon. Yeah.
Interesting. Um, Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, 1,000%. And like you mentioned, every Gorn episode that we have seen so far in Strange New Worlds, I have very much had a Aliens franchise vibe to it, with a little bit of Predator vibe in there. Especially
Yeah.
the first episode, the one where they're down on the planet, right, and they've come across that crashed ship, and the alien that's on there that they meet, that he's already been infected, right? And the Gorn get out and they're running around the ship, and some of the visuals of what the Gorn see kind of reminded me a little bit of Predator on that. I did not think Independence Day, and now that you
Hmm.
mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Actually,
Yeah.
several different scenes make sense for Independence Day. Didn't think Matrix, but that does make sense with the pods. Uh, there was a small part of me, very, very small, Chris,
Hmm.
very, very
Hmm.
small part of me,
Hmm.
when they were on board the big Gorn ship and they're trying to fight their way out, and
Yeah.
all this stuff's going on. And there's a very, very small part of me that had some Event Horizon feel to it.
Event Horizon, interesting. Yeah.
Very small, just from the
Hmm.
horror perspective of it,
Hmm.
right? We've mentioned many times how the Gorn and the way in which the Gorn have been introduced into Strange New Worlds, the way they have portrayed them, the look, the vibe, everything about the Gorn episodes is a very much a horror sci-fi crossover,
Yeah.
right? We're getting that kind of conjoining like we do with Aliens. Aliens is a science fiction horror crossover of epic proportions, in my opinion. And so I definitely think we're getting that here with this Gorn episode, as well as all the ones we've seen up to this point. And so I have really enjoyed that quite a bit, actually. We don't see a lot of horror in Star Trek. If you are watching or listening to us, we did a Halloween series last year where we brought in a number of episodes of Star Trek that were Halloween, spooky horror kind of vibes to them. And those were a blast to talk about, by the way. Absolutely
Yeah.
ton of fun. But those were kind of few and far between in the Star Trek franchise, right?
Yeah.
That just wasn't, that's just not really, horror and Star Trek aren't really bedfellows much, here and there, but not much. The Gorn element in Strange New Worlds, I think, has brought a whole nother layer to that. And I've really thought that that's given us something different.
Hmm.
And Strange New Worlds is if it's done nothing, but then the only thing it's done, that doesn't make any sense. Let me restart. If nothing else, Strange New Worlds has given us different, right? If they have done nothing else, they have given us a lot of different stuff, whether it's been the Elysian Kingdom, whether it's been, uh, you know, episode 2, which you will see and we'll talk about tomorrow, of season 3. There's been the Subspace Rhapsody musical episode. I
Hmm.
mean, the crossover with Lower Decks. There's been a lot of very different type of stuff that Strange New Worlds given us, and I think the Gorn stuff's fantastic. What it's done is the Gorn have now become, in my opinion, and I'm curious what you think on this, Chris. This is something I wanted to ask you about when we talked about this episode. Do you feel, at least for now, do you feel kind of like the Gorn are Strange New Worlds version of the Klingons in TNG, or the Klingons in other Star Trek series? Because the Klingons were a consistent kind of villain and bad guy, mostly in other Star Trek series. They weren't always bad guys. Sometimes they're allies, sometimes they're not. But in general, the Klingons have always been kind of a villain, right? For the Federation. Do you feel like the Gorn have established themselves in Strange New Worlds as the main overarching villain thus far?
Yeah, I think for the moment it is. I mean, you have to have a very menacing like antagonist, and then so I think at the moment the Gorn like fulfills that for sure. I mean, there's a lot they don't know about the Gorn. It's just they're completely mysterious. They're learning a little bit more and a little bit more. Um, but because they're so mysterious, I think that makes them like a perfect mysterious antagonist that they have to face. Um, Real quick, like some other vibes I had, like for was this is interesting. This comes to my mind, Godzilla and Jurassic Park. So
Really? Mm.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
please explain because
yeah,
I didn't get those vibes, but then again I didn't get Matrix and Independence Day, and once you mention them, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. The just the y- when they encounter the adult Gorns, they're lizard-like creatures, very menacing creatures. That reminds me of like the encounters that they might have in Jurassic Park with the velociraptors.
Oh yeah.
How are they gonna take out the velociraptors? And in Godzilla, this would be the United States making of the Godzilla movie, like in the late 90s, the one with Matthew Broderick. Um,
Oh yeah, that
yeah.
soundtrack was amazing because it had at the time one of my favorite bands, the Wallflowers, on it.
Oh yeah.
They had a song from that I think it was called Heroes or something
Mm,
along the lines. Very late '90s song, great soundtrack on that movie. But
yeah.
yes, I know what you're. It
Yeah.
wasn't it was it made in '99 or was it made in 2000? It was made right towards the very end of the '90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah, right in
was.
that time frame.
Yeah, in that time frame. So
Yeah. It
so
was a
I
good I thought it was a good version of Godzilla. I
did
like
like
that
that
movie
Godzilla.
actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
like it. I did really like
Yeah.
it. And this is like a lot what it has to do about it seems like the things that affect the Gorn are a lot to do with solar energy,
Yes.
and
Radiation, another big one.
radiation.
Yep.
Yeah. So, those kind of elements that the Gorn respond to, like are in that kind of area. And so that's what connected me to Godzilla. And then in that Matthew Broderick version of Godzilla, there was I remember near the end, there was a whole bunch of like mini like hatchling Godzillas that were out like running around that they had to battle. So all of those like were coming to my mind. I'm like, oh, it's giving me all these different kind of vibes here that's combined in
Yeah.
Star Trek. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? People who are directing and writing these episodes and these shows, I mean, you have to imagine they have been influenced by other works
Hmm.
in the past, right? And in this case, science fiction works. And matter of fact, Hegemony Part II, our season three premiere of Strange New Worlds, was written by Henry Alonso Myers and Davy Perez
Mm.
and directed by Chris Fisher. So you have to imagine those three guys are heavily influenced by other previous works in science fiction like you have mentioned, and that
Yeah.
probably is some of the reasons why those vibes are there.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Now, okay, there's a. Do you remember the scene in the conference room on the Enterprise between Pike and Admiral April?
Yeah.
And I wrote down a note on there that it was interesting because now, granted, they're alone. They're obviously close, right? They have a good relationship. Admiral April, I believe, is one of the first Starfleet, if not the first Starfleet person we meet in the premiere of Strange New Worlds
Hmm.
when he comes down to the planet to try to recruit Pike to come back.
That's
He's
right.
one of the first ones we meet. Uh, but obviously they're close. They are on a first name basis
Hmm.
in private. Uh, in the real military, I don't think that would be the case,
Hmm.
but for the purposes they are. And what I found very interesting, and I think this particular episode highlighted something that we hadn't exactly fully seen yet. And what I mean by that is it's very evident that Admiral April has complete trust and confidence in Pike's ability to get the mission done and to lead the Enterprise and his people as a captain.
Yeah.
If he didn't, that conversation would have been very different. He wouldn't have said, officially you're going to fall back and you're going to patrol this area, right, to watch for Gorn activity. Unofficially, you know, we gotta, you're gonna punch back, right?
Yeah.
Like what
Yeah.
Pike recommends. So I found that very fascinating. I found that very important that someone in Admiral April's position who clearly has some level of authority in this area of space and is given some level of authority to command forces in this region, has such confidence in Pike that he is willing to probably risk his career to a certain extent to allow Pike to go unofficially do things that, probably are not approved by other members of Starfleet leadership.
Yeah. A
So
great,
I think that
yeah.
scene is really important moving forward too.
Yeah, you're right. A great degree of trust. And Admiral April was, he personally flew to Captain Pike's house.
Yeah.
Personally flew there at
Yeah.
the beginning, at the beginning and
Yeah. He
said,
didn't
Hey,
transport.
yeah, he
He
didn't
flew.
transport. He
It took a
flew.
shuttle.
Yeah. And he said, when you coming back? We need you. Get
Yeah.
back. Um, you know, that scene I remember Captain Pike was on the horse, riding the horse. Admiral like flew him down. He's like, it's time to
Yeah.
come back.
Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, Chris. When we first talked about Strange New World, and I think I brought it up again when we did the pilot spotlight series. When we did Strange New World's pilot, Strange New Worlds, the
Hmm.
pilot of the episode of the show is
Hmm.
the same name as the show, which is interesting. That when I first watched that episode and I saw Anson Mount as Pike on that horse with the long hair riding, I immediately thought to myself, and a beard, immediately thought to myself, it's Cullen Bohannon from Hell on Wheels.
Hmm.
Because that was his breakout role, was that show. And as I've mentioned before, how much I love that series and how incredible it is. Um, it really reminded me of that. So to see him on horseback again was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this episode, like we open, we're we're in the middle of a battle. And this is
Yeah.
it's very much like centered on Captain Pike's face because he's like wondering like what in the world are we gonna do? Like they've realized that the colonists and the other landing party, instead of being beamed back to the Enterprise like they hoped, because they went through this in episode one, they went through this great kind of plan on destroying that jamming device on the planet, that Gorn jamming device, so that they could transport people. Um, Great plan, but then the people did get transported, but they were transported by the Gorn and not the
Yeah.
Enterprise. So
Yeah.
they got transported away, and so he's like, "What do we do? What do we do?" Because they've realized, okay, they're not on the Enterprise. Now they have a whole bunch of Gorn attacking the Enterprise, ready to attack the Enterprise, and he's conflicted. And he's asking his crew for suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see the conflict heavily weighing on him.
Hmm.
I thought Anson Mount did an amazing job in the way in which he portrayed Pike in the early part of this episode, this opening scene, because you can see the weight he has with attempting to fight off the Gorn, attempting to figure out how to push them back and punch back, while also having to deal with the fact that he has an away team that's captured. There are colonists who are captured by the Gorn. And if that wasn't enough, his love, his lady, Captain Batel, is in sick bay fighting for her life, potentially going to die from Gorn babies popping out of her body.
Hmm.
I mean, that is a lot to ask of a captain. And it reminds me, Chris, which is funny because Pike's first name is also Christopher. But it reminds me, Chris, if you remember when we did the pilot spotlight series and we talked about the cage,
Hmm.
and in the cage, there was that scene in Pike's quarters with Jeffrey Hunter as Pike and the doctor who also acted as his bartender. And he mentioned about getting to the point where he didn't want to have to be in the position to decide who lives and who dies. And this this series presumably takes place before the cage in the timeline, right?
Yes.
And so if you think about it and you connect this series back to the cage and you think about all the stuff that Pike's going through right now, it amplifies that statement that Pike makes to the doctor even more so than what it was prior to Strange New Worlds and prior to even now where we're at now, the beginning of season three. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, on connecting back to the cage and that moment where Pike is really burdened by everything that he has gone through as a captain thus far up to that point, back to what he's currently experiencing on the timeline.
I think you make a great point. That's an excellent point. There are moments in this episode where you see that Pike is his his the outcome is not in his hands at all. He is so reliant. He has to make the decision, but he is so reliant on the skills and abilities of his crew, right?
Mm.
Naturally, like so in Hegemony like part one, um, Erica Ortega like is the one that's gotta she's gotta fly the shuttle. It's gotta drop in free fall essentially until like 1,500 meters, and then she's gotta take it. Like, and he's like he's got his like his gut is in his chest, and he's sweating, and he's they're completely reliant on Erica. And then when they fly out, like you see this sense of relief, and she's like, "Oh, Captain, I thought you were a test pilot." And he says, "I was a test pilot." Um, then then when Captain Batel is on board and they're finally able to get Christine's back on the Enterprise, um, and now it's kind of in Christine's hands to help treat Captain Batel. She gives Christine like updates the captain, says, "Hey, I don't have good news." She's rejecting the cryo sleep serum. This is not good. Captain Pike can't do anything. You just see all this weight on his shoulders,
Yeah.
and all he just says, keep working on it. He goes, "I believe in you." And that's like what he can say, "I believe in you." Then there's the moment when um they're they're trying to figure out like how to stop the Gorn from invading like Earth, because the Gorn are poised, ready to go, like invade Federation territory now. And it's just kind of him. Like, what does he do? Like he asks, like, number one, he goes like, "Hey, are we in firing distance?" And she looks at him like he's crazy. She says, "Chris, what are you thinking? There, we're not going to stand a chance." But all in his mind is just he's going, "Oh, I gotta put like a warning. I gotta warn them. It's just him against this armada right now." And he calls up Pelia, the engineer, and she brings up Scotty, and they come up and they just start talking all this science stuff, and he doesn't know what they're talking about, and he's just watching them. He's like, "Okay, we're gonna do it."
Yeah.
And Scotty's like, "Yeah, it was like a chance in 1,000." He goes, "I like those odds, you know."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
know,
because what other
yeah,
option does he really have, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And yeah, you're right. You're right. He's looking for options, but making the decision on which option are we going to go with, taking the expertise of his crew like as much as he can, like along the way. And then at the very like coming to like your point of like how he is as a person, how he felt, the very end of the episode when he approaches Captain Batel. So he goes to sick bay, and he's breathing kind of hard. This is a really big moment for him. He goes in, and then he starts crying, and he drops to his knee, and he starts praying, right? And you see all this is just heavy, heavy, heavy thing. And when he starts praying, like it was this really interesting moment I saw. He goes, "Okay, Dad, I think you're right." He calls out his dad, right? And he drops
Yeah.
to his knee. But Captain Bateau like wakes up a little bit later, but you just see him like as a person, like all this stuff is so heavy on him, and he's sharing this very, very like uh intimate moment with Captain Batel, because he shares with her, yeah, yeah, we had to use Una's blood, whatever. And she's like, Chris, why'd you do that? And he's like, please stop. He goes, I can't lose you, right? He's don't stop, stop like talking about like
Yeah.
why I'm deciding what I'm
Yeah.
deciding. Like, I can't lose
He's like,
you.
let me just hold you or something,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. And so, yeah, and so his all of that like deeply, deeply like affects him, like having to do that. Um, he's the type of person like when Admiral April, I think this was Hegemony like part one, they're saying like don't go to the planet, stay on your side of the line.
Yeah.
He had to go in and help. He couldn't face it if those people died. So yeah, it's very much connected to that. I think that idea of Captain Pike that we see in Toss. This person that um
He's
the
worn out in
he's
toss.
worn
He's worn
out.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. At this point, he's been through uh well, he's been through a lot. Yeah, he's been through a
Yeah.
lot for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, when the cage is made, there's no backstory
Hmm.
really that's been written or developed yet for Pike. But as we're learning this through the building and the continuation of Strange New Worlds, you begin to go, okay. And I thought about that scene from the cage with Pike
Hmm.
and go, it makes complete sense,
Hmm.
right? It really does. Now, that being said, based on what we know of Pike prior to Strange New Worlds coming out, he doesn't have a lady friend. He doesn't have a wife. He's not
Hmm.
married, doesn't have kids, any of that stuff. So, they could, of course, can change things because this is like, a different timeline,
Yeah.
sort of, right? But that begs to question whether or not Tim and Battelle will stay a thing or not long term. We know, well, Pike knows his fate. He knows what's going to happen to him because of the crystals that he took from the Klingon monastery in Discovery, and he saw his future, but he did it in order to save his crew, and there were consequences for doing that. Uh, but you're right, Chris. Like you see this sense of helplessness just take over him in this episode.
Hmm.
This sense of helplessness that he cannot stop what's happening in Batel's body with the Gorn. He has no control over that. He's reliant on Chapel. And of course, Chapel even mentions, she's like, oh, where's Dr. Mbenga when I need him, whatever, because Dr. Mbenga is one of the captured away team. So he's not there. So she's on her own. And I love that Spock went down to help her. And Spock really is kind of the one that helped gave her the idea,
Yeah.
um, finally to help, make Batel better and be able to survive. He well, maybe not so much the necessarily what to do, but he helped change her perspective
Yeah.
on how they treat her versus what they were trying to do before. But yeah, I find it funny, Chris, that our
Hmm.
two favorite characters played massive roles in this episode, right? Chapel played a huge role in helping save Captain Batel.
Yeah.
And Lon plays a huge role in getting the away team the hell off that Gorn ship. Of course, others played a role too. You have Ortegas, who was bleeding out literally, but she
Yeah.
flies this Gorn ship, having never flown it before. A little bit absurd, but okay. And without any really real visuals, and she just kind of picks it up and goes. I know she's a good pilot, but however, those two characters, these two ladies played such huge roles. And of course, I know with people probably know who've watched us and listened to us that Chapel's your gal.
Hmm.
She's your
Hmm.
favorite character from the show so far. And Lon is definitely my favorite character from the show. So I thought it was cool that our favorite characters played such an integral role in the success of saving a life and surviving the Gorn.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite parts of the episode, the part two, Hegemony, is when Leon gets out of that cocoon. Like
Yeah.
she's able to claw her way out of the cocoon, and this is like a, this is a nasty situation, right? So she gets out of the cocoon. It's things are like pretty grim. It's messed up, and she's having some flashbacks, some traumatic flashbacks,
Yeah, with her brother.
with her brother, and then she closes her eyes, collects her breath, and she says, I can do this. And you're like, she kind of calms herself down. She goes, I can do this. Breaks it down step by step. What's the first step? Always get the doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like,
So she
that's
gets
true.
the doctor.
That's true.
Then she gets the doctor, right? And then I love that. And she's completely committed to like saying, like, we're gonna save everybody. It's not just one, we're gonna save everybody.
Do you think that the mind meld Spock did with her helped
Hmm.
her collect her thoughts and be able to be more in control of her mind to do what she did versus being overwhelmed and consumed by her, previous memories and the fear of the Gorn from when she was younger?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it would
Yeah,
help. I mean,
I think so too.
she's already like an exceptional character, right? She's highly
That's why she's my
disciplined.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, highly disciplined, physically very, very skilled. Um, and she also is a descendant of does she have she's a descendant of Khan,
Of Khan,
right?
yeah.
Of Khan.
She's
I,
not she well, I mean I don't think any of the episodes yet have directly come out and said that she's
mhm.
genetically altered, but when she chose to forego the uh whatever the stuff they were going to give her to alter her looks, the like it was
Mm,
almost like an anesthesia a little bit
yeah,
in the
that's
pilot
right.
episode, and she said
That's
no,
right.
no, no, I refuse. I think that was a sign that had she done that, that could have affected her some level of her abilities or
Yeah.
genetic altering. So I believe, I think without their, and I can't remember unless if you can remember, I don't remember a direct uh reference to her having been genetically altered or
Hmm.
modified like Khan in his Superman word in the Eugenics Wars.
Yeah.
However, I believe there's been enough hints that would make you believe that that probably is the case in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah. She is great in it. Um, I there in while they were on the Gorn ship, it was uh man, there's just great moments when that adult Gorn was coming at her from behind. And I think you had Sam Kirk, try and shoot the adult Gorn, and then Ortega got tried to take out the adult Gorn too, but then she was really badly wounded, and then Leon like had the phaser right up to the Gorn's like neck, and then
And then
blew,
shot
yeah,
its
and then
freaking
shot.
head off.
Yeah.
That was so awesome. That scene, you want to talk about vibes, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's that scene where she shot his head off
Yeah.
reminded me towards the end of the first Men in Black
Oh,
when
can't believe you
when
just said that.
yeah
Yeah, yeah,
when Kay
yeah.
shoots the freaking, like, he's not a cockroach, but when he shoots the big cockroach basically,
Yeah.
right, and shoots its head off right as
Mm-hmm.
it's getting ready, or no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, well, yeah, he shoots him, and then when the woman behind shoots right as he's getting ready to eat the two of
Yeah.
them. So that reminded me of Men in Black in that moment when she
Oh,
blows the
that's
freaking
great.
head off of that Gorn, and I'm like, hell yeah, Lon, hell yeah, like she's a badass, she's awesome. Yeah, she's amazing. Christina Chong is incredible as Lon. I mean, all the characters so far. This show has been so well cast,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't even gotten yet to Pelia, who is a new character, brand new
Mm-hmm.
character. She
Mm-hmm.
was not just like Lon. She was not a character who was in the original Star Trek. Also, can we not? We have to gush over Martin. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. It's escaped me right now. But Martin, who plays the young Scotty in this,
Mm-hmm.
because tell me he's not fantastic as the young Scotty. He's been amazing.
Yeah, I thought he was great. And what I liked about this is that it explores in a great way this different dimension of Scotty because he is younger, because he's not as confident, a little bit insecure. Pelia as his professor like picks up like what his weakness is, and she's able
Yeah.
to like identify that and say, she knows what his strength is. He needs to be under pressure, and she wants to unveil that to him to say like this has always been your problem, right? You can't when you're not under pressure, you can't perform. Um, but I did really like it. I really liked the moment like when she calls him out. Like this is one of their last interactions. Pelia says, um, yeah, this has always been your problem, right? You can't handle it when you have too much time on your hands. You need this pressure, um, and you're kind of insubordinate. And Scotty, he doesn't know how to take it. He's hurt and kind of rejects that kind of that input from Pelia, that criticism. And he says, with all due respect, you're not my CO. My CO perished on the
Yeah.
Stardiver, um and then may I be excused. And you see this like look of almost pity's not the right word, but Paley is just kind of like, oh, Scotty. She's like,
Yeah.
she sees all this great potential like in him, and Scotty walks away. So I like that um very vulnerable state that they show of Scotty, like someone that he's just got all these gifts, this
Yeah.
tremendous gift for being an engineer, and then so his weaknesses at the moment on this young Scotty, these kind of weaknesses overcome him, and
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to deal with it, and he walks away.
And this is definitely pre-miracle worker Scotty, right?
Yeah.
That this is young Scotty. We can see his confidence isn't there yet and everything. And I couldn't help during this episode but be reminded of the TNG episode Relics, where with the Dyson sphere, and where Geordi discovers Scotty, who's been sitting in a transporter buffer for a
Hmm.
long time, beams him back in unexpectedly, and they get to know each other. And Scotty's following around the Enterprise trying to be a help, and he's kind of getting in Geordi's way. And I love the line in there where Jimmy Doohan says, "Oh, Sonny, you didn't tell him how much time it really takes, did you? No, you got to tell me." He's like, you got to tell him this much time, and then you get it done in half. That's how I became known as the miracle worker.
Yeah.
Like I love that scene, and that almost almost a level of innocence from Scotty,
Hmm.
sort of.
Hmm.
There's something else we're going to learn about Scotty in the next episode
Mm.
that I'm excited for us to discuss.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool. I've really, really enjoyed this young Scotty. I think he's absolutely nailing it. It's just been so good so far. And how have you liked Pelia? She's a new character in general. She's a new character to Strange New Worlds, and she's played by an incredibly well-known actress in Carol Kane, who has done a lot of stuff to include Princess Bride.
Hmm.
She was in Gotham. She's been in a lot of things. So I'm
Hmm.
curious to get your thoughts on what you think Pelia's brought to the show so far.
Yeah, I have liked her. I think it was the right uh fitting for her character to be like a former professor, like at the academy. Like, hey, she taught engineering and she taught these classes because that is her, that fits her personality as I think she's played. So, so I think that's been really good. A she has a lot more experience than because I think she's aged. They live like what 1,000 years. They live like
Yeah,
really
she's
long.
not human. She looks
Yeah,
human, but she's not human.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think she's played well, and she's able to be like a mentor type character. Definitely,
Yeah.
think she'll be a mentor to Scotty like later. But I like her. I like her. I think she's got
Yeah.
some humor there. And she called, that's right, because she and Una have history, right? So
Yes.
so I like that. Like because Una as I recall, Una didn't really like Pelia being on the ship because Pelia had, given Una some poor grades.
Yeah.
But that background and that history is great to see because I think Pelia says to Una at one time, she goes, "Well, if you would have answered like that, then you would have gotten an A plus in my class." I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I'll be completely transparent here, Chris. I was not a huge fan of Palia at first.
Hmm.
And I think it's not nothing to do with Carol Kane. It's nothing to do with the character as a whole. It's more to do with the fact that it replaced Hemmer. And we
Hmm.
know Hemmer sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
Another Gorn episode in episode, I think it was episode 8 or 9 of season one,
Yeah.
that he dies to and perishes in order to keep the Gorn from hatching and saving his crew members. We've had Bruce on with us. We need to have him back on again, to be honest with you. But we've had him on before, and I really loved Hemmer. And it's kind of interesting, Chris, because the way Palia is a mentor and kind of a guide for Scotty, even though he feels maybe is a little too critical and kind of on him all the time, is the same way that Hemmer was to Uhura.
Oh, yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
how much we talked about how much we love the relationship and the mentorship type between Uhura and
Hmm.
Hemmer. I would have loved to have seen Hemmer go on for at least another full season, so through season two at least, because the idea of having a blind Enar, well, that's redundant because Enar are blind, but the idea of having an Enar on the Enterprise who is blind, who are pacifists, who don't believe in fighting and war and things like that, and they're serving as your chief engineer aboard basically the Federation flagship. That is incredible. I mean, that's just to think about that as an idea. You have this blind species in the Enar who do not fight, who do not, they're pacifists. They're all against all of that. And they are, and you have one of these characters who the first time we meet the Enar is an Enterprise and have them as your chief engineer is just an incredible thought. So I know we both really liked Hemmer a lot. I would have loved to have seen Hemmer longer. That's the only really big reason why I didn't like Paley at first, just because I felt like, well, they had to find a new chief engineer. They weren't going to bring in Scotty yet, albeit they do at the end of season two. Um, but yeah, I found that interesting. Yeah, I have also liked through the first two episodes, although I'm not going to say anything about two yet. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I do like that in the first episode so far, how many Kirk sightings did we have?
No, zero. Yeah.
Zero.
Except for
Now,
Sam the
what?
bro, the
Yeah,
brother.
but that
Yeah.
doesn't count because I like Sam Kirk. I think he's
Yeah.
a great addition to the ship. He's very funny and he adds something to the show.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's nothing against Kirk. It's just this is Pike's crew. It's Pike's Enterprise right now. Save Kirk for the end of the show, which we know Strange New Worlds is going to have 5 seasons. We know it got renewed for a fifth and final season. It sucks, but we're going to get 2 more seasons after this one, so we still have three seasons, right? If you're including what we're in now, which
Hmm.
is great. But we know it's going to get a total of 5 seasons. They're filming season 4 right now, apparently,
Hmm.
at the time of this recording, and so it's great. And I like that they don't start out a new season with, oh, we got more Kirk. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we've had this conversation before about, hey, let's pump the brakes on the Kirk thing. They've brought in other characters like a Scotty, where I feel like, okay, they've brought him in now. He's on the ship. They didn't bring him into the end of season two and into season three. He's there, but he's not the chief engineer. So I like that kind of slow, introduction of a character that we know is going to be on the Enterprise for a long time.
Yeah. I like that. I'm really glad you talked about Hemmer more because Hemmer is as a character, and as an individual, I think he's really, really important. You know,
Yeah.
he being blind, like as an Enar, I think as you brought up these important facts, he's the chief engineer on the flagship of the Enterprise, right? But he's got this tremendous technical skill, engineering knowledge, and talent.
Yeah.
Um, and him, all that talent is there, and he doesn't, and his ability to use his other senses is there. Despite like him being blind, he's able to like achieve like this greatness in his field in engineering, and I think that aspect is really important because he was a mentor to Uhura, but he's also like an example in that respect, right? You don't
Yeah.
you don't there are people that don't have all of their abilities, or physical abilities, and so his being blind, um, despite that, or or I don't want to say despite that, but but maybe as part of that, he uses his other senses to to greater degree to help him like
Yeah.
achieve what is achieved, like to be that chief engineer on the
Yeah,
Enterprise. And I
his
think
other
that's
abilities
important.
make up for it
Yeah,
tenfold, right?
yeah.
And so he is. Yeah, I loved Hemmer quite a bit. I mean, it helps that we got to talk to Bruce, and Bruce just made me like the character even more because he's such a great guy, right? But yeah, that's the only reason. But I do like Pelia. I think she's been a fun addition to the crew. I like that she kind of, I think, takes on the role of mentor to all the crew, right?
Yeah.
She's been around a long time. She's very old. They lived for her a long time. She's been a professor at the academy,
Hmm.
so she has a lot to offer, albeit some of her methods are questionable. But and she's very honest and straightforward, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's a nice addition, I think. It's unfortunately at the expense of Hemmer
Have Hammer,
going
yeah.
going away.
She,
I
oh yeah.
No, no,
Sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, she's able to fill in like uh context on other characters because like she knows Una from when Una was younger. She knows
Yeah,
Scotty from when Scotty was younger. So she can fill in these background drops of the different characters on all these different places, and
yeah,
she can call them out. Right?
that's
And
true.
she can call them out, and then her personality is, I feel like, if she doesn't want to listen to any of them, then she's not going to listen to any of them. Right? Yeah.
That's true. I think you're right on that one.
Yeah.
I do want to go back, Chris, before I forget, to the scene that you brought up of towards the end of the episode where Pike shows up to the sick bay
Yeah.
and sees Captain Batel there,
Hmm.
and he is overcome with emotion,
Hmm.
right? And he says, whatever the line was, something about, okay, Dad, maybe you're right or whatever. And he gets down on his knees, starts to pray, "Oh Father, how
Hmm.
thou art in heaven, hallowed," and then she starts to wake up. And I found that interesting because here is a man, a character who clearly had a father who had faith,
Hmm.
and he is to the point where he's like, okay, maybe Dad was right. Maybe his faith was right. He has having this kind of realization, right? I love that because what it's showing is that there is still a level of, I'm not going to use the word religion, but there's still a level of belief by humanity in a higher power at this point in the timeline. Gene Roddenberry was known very much for being against anything religion. He didn't bring a lot of religion into Star Trek.
Hmm.
That was not part of Star Trek very much. Once in a while, you'd see a little bit of that from another alien species. But in general, it really wasn't there a whole lot until Deep Space Nine showed up. And then
Yeah.
religion became a massive part
Yeah.
of Star Trek, right? With the Bajorans and everything else. But I really liked that scene. Pike was super vulnerable, as you mentioned, and it was a very touching scene because it just goes to show how much Pike cared for Batel and the fact that he didn't want to lose her. and it was really touching. I really enjoyed that moment there. It was a very vulnerable moment by Pike, where he had gotten to the point where he was desperate and he was going to do anything in order to hopefully save her. So
Yeah.
amazing scene. It was well done. It was well documented. Document meaning filmed.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great way to kind of towards the end of the episode wrap the episode up. There's still a little bit more after that, but in general, pretty great. Okay, so I want to share a couple of things that stood out to me, Chris, and please interject,
Yeah.
add your 2 cents in. Um, First and foremost, we got a new introduction. The music's the same,
Yeah.
but did you notice some of the new visuals we got in season three intro theme? It was stunning, absolutely stunning.
There's this scene where the ship looks like it's coming out of a cloud or a nebula,
Mhm.
and I really liked that a lot. It reminded me a little bit about a different flavor, but like sort of like remember the Voyager intro? Like we both really
Yes,
liked the Voyager
I was
intro.
thinking about the
Yeah,
Voyager intro
yeah,
when I was watching this. Yeah.
yeah. But this is kind of a different flavor of like very similar feel, right? So I love I love it when you get the sense of like of awe and wonder. That's what I want to see in
Yes.
in in an opening like that.
Yeah.
You know?
You mean there you didn't have that sense of awe and wonder and discoveries opening?
Oh. Remember that one gave me like that was like it looked like Fringe. That was like the same for me for
Yes.
X. I was like,
Yes.
what? Yeah,
Oh no no
yeah.
no 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 no, Chris.
Not X Files.
No,
Fringe.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
we're
no.
not
We're,
gonna.
we're not comparing Discovery's intro to X Files. How dare you? But yeah, no, you're right.
Mhm.
I mean, the intro was great in season one and season two, but you
Yeah,
obviously it was evident that they had adjusted it and made some new visuals for the new season, and they were gorgeous. It really it fits this show, this sense of awe and wonder, like you mentioned, and distinct and interesting and new and surprising and all of these things. I think this new intro for season three is incredible. It really is.
yeah.
Now let's talk about the music. I think we
Hmm.
should talk about the music.
Yeah.
So Nami, she absolutely nails this music again. She's been the lead composer for a majority of the Strange New Worlds music that we
Hmm.
hear. I remember meeting her a couple years ago in Vegas. I want to say it was I think season one had already come out or was coming out
Hmm.
while Vegas was happening. That might have been what was going on. No, maybe it was already out or it was almost over. I don't doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But I remember meeting her. Somebody I knew introduced me to her, and we got to have her on the show. I need to
That'd
reach
be
out to her
wonderful.
because
Yeah.
she's incredible, and this music is so amazing. I read somewhere that she was aiming for like a cinematic feel to the music
Yeah.
in Strange New Worlds. I'd have to ask her if that's actually true, but if it is, I think she nails that too. I don't know if you noticed in this Hegemony Part II episode the callback music to TOS
Hmm.
again and
Yeah.
that callback music to Arena.
Yeah.
It was prevalent and it was so well interwoven with new stuff. It just there were moments the way in which they took the shots, those close-up shots of the captain with all the light from the binary stars, and then
Yeah.
that like that music from Arena and it's bouncing and it just felt like TOS. Oh my gosh, it felt like TOS and it was so freaking good.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I did really feel the callback to TOS, and I thought, oh, that was neat. It was so talented, so much talent and creativity goes into making you feel that way. But yeah, yeah, I mean, it just goes. The music is so incredibly important, like
Yes.
to keep us in the moment of the particular scene and and to connect with our memory, like and our sensation of like
Yeah.
how we feel about that scene. Absolutely. It was wonderful.
It really was. Like I said, Nami, if you're watching or listening, girl, you freaking nailed this
Hmm.
music again. Your music has been incredible, and hopefully we can have you on the show really, really soon because I have been so impressed by the musical score for this throughout this whole series, really,
Hmm.
because it's not like, okay, we're just gonna take old TOS music and throw it into the episodes and that's that. No, they interweave it at just the right moments, but yet we also get new dramatic music that really gives you that
Hmm.
feel and that drive of that particular moment on whatever given episode it is, and it's just it's so incredible. It's so
Hmm.
incredible, and this music to me has been a huge part of what's made Strange New Worlds so dang good. There, did I hit it
Absolutely.
enough? Yeah,
You
yeah.
did.
Yeah, I told you, Chris. I had some things to say about the music. It's
Did.
amazing. Nami is just absolutely freaking nailing it. It's amazing.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. Now, Chris, you have mentioned before about how much you enjoy, how much you like Captain Batel. And I have to
Yeah.
agree. I found myself rooting so hard for her during this Hegemony Part 2 episode.
Yeah. Me too. I'm so glad that she survived, obviously.
For now.
Yeah, for now. I was really concerned in season two that something might happen.
Yeah.
Um, I think throughout season one, season two, and this beginning of season three, she has definitely pulled some things, these these kind of character nuances out of Captain Pike that have been great. Made him learn about himself,
Yeah.
right? Like when he might have been wrong, then he's kind of comes to that realization um, because of her. Uh, I definitely want to see more of like her and Captain Pike, like in season three. I think she's a terrific captain. She she's very much like if you in a way, um, you think about it like this. She's very much in rules and order and what is the correct thing to do and maybe what's the best thing for Starfleet and what's kind of a utilitarian like ethics kind of thing. What's the best thing for Starfleet as a whole?
Yeah.
Because when and this is kind of the contrasting difference between Captain Pike and her. It's because when even going back to the pilot of the series, she's in her uniform, she's ready to go back to duty, and Pike is having this existential moment like, oh, I don't know if I can go back to Starfleet
Yeah.
because of what happened to me. Like,
Right.
like it was pretty rough. And
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, come on, Chris, you gotta sooner or later you gotta get back up on there and you gotta go back. Um, and like when Captain Pike goes to the planet, for her. I mean, the big part of why he goes is for her. Like she runs up and gives him a hug, and she's like, "You came, but you shouldn't have come. Why did you
Yeah.
come? You shouldn't have done that too. Why'd you do that?"
Yeah.
Um, and then she's very much about like, hey, if it gets bad with the Gorn situation inside me, then you have to take me out because I don't matter. Everyone's got to make it. And even when they were back on the planet, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take the shuttle. I'm gonna fly into that Gorn device. I'm gonna blow up the device, so that you guys can transport like out there." So
Yeah.
she's very much thinking about like the broad scope, the many, right? The many. And Chris Pike is like a little bit different because he takes every individual um so personally. And then that's fine. Like that's kind of his style, right? That's how he leads, that's how he connects. Everybody matters to him, of course. And so
Yeah.
I mean she matters to him tremendously. So absolutely he's gonna go because she matters like so much. He can't detach himself. Um
Yeah.
like I can see Battelle like more being able to kind of remove herself, detach herself, kind of think in a very, very logical fashion, which is different than Pike. And I think that's what's good about that contrast.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, as you were talking and you were mentioning
Yeah.
about Pike's care of the individual and everything, it had me thinking, Chris.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we have discussed this ever before when we talk about Strange New Worlds. Maybe we have, but I think it's important we bring this up now since we're
Yeah.
starting a brand new season. Comparing Pike's command to Kirk's command, I haven't noticed as many red shirts dying under Pike so far in Strange New Worlds. Have you? How many red shirts have died in this series? I can't think of too many. I really can't
They
think of too
haven't.
many red shirts that have died under
Yeah.
Pike's command.
Yeah.
Compared to Kirk, who it seemed like every other day there was red shirts dying.
Right.
Hence the name, hence why our podcast name is even what it is
Yeah.
because of Kirk's command.
Yeah.
So something to be said about that in Pike. You know, he cares about every individual, even the lowly red shirts, right?
Can we talk about this a little more? This is great.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, please, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
this is an important thing to
yeah.
note. I mean, we're the Random Red Shirt podcast. This is an important thing to note here.
Yeah.
We cannot overlook this.
No, we cannot overlook it.
We
Right.
can't.
Right. Um, because there's yes, Pike connects for me. This is what I think. This is just going like my opinion, my thoughts on Captain Pike and Captain Kirk. Yes, Captain Pike definitely connects like to the individual, whether it's well, yeah, whether it's Una, um, or Captain Batel, like his love interest, or Spock. He's very much affected, but even I think affected by by junior crew members, right?
Yeah.
Junior crew members at this point, like in
Well,
his command.
Mitchell, let me give you an example.
Yeah,
Mitchell, the female who was driving the ship in this episode, right, who had been
yeah,
on shift for forever and was tired. She's a red shirt. She's a young officer, very young officer. And he made the point to go up to her and say, "You should find someone to relieve you. You're a zombie. You've been
uh,
burning on fumes here."
yeah,
And she says, "I'm not leaving until we get every single person back." And he's like, "Copy that."
yeah,
I think that's a perfect example in this episode, Hegemony Part II, of exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Um, Now I'm contrasting this with Kirk, and I don't mean in any way to say that Kirk doesn't care about like his crew, because he does. He does very deeply, and he cares about like those that are close to him, and he'll go like
Just not the red shirts,
just
Chris.
yeah. He will. He'll do anything for his crew as well, Kirk. But there's a moment in Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan where his son, and at this point Kirk is a more developed character in Star
Yeah,
Trek II: Wrath of Khan, right? He's
yeah,
Admiral Kirk. But David points out to him, and David's only known him like a little bit of time right now as an adult, right?
yeah.
But David points out to him directly, you don't know how to deal with death. And
Mm.
Kirk is like, yeah, not like this. Yeah, I skip my way around it, circle my way around, right? And Kirk's very much like he's an individual that um he has to be the one in the action, making the decision, solving the problem. Kirk has to be in there. He has to feel like he's the one solving the problem, no matter what it is. But Pike is like Pike in the episode, there's like so much he can't solve anything. There's like in this dilemma, right? And he's asking at the beginning of the episode, he's asking everyone for suggestions, and when they're in the battle, and Una's like, well, we got to retreat for now, and we retreat and come back. Or with Batel being sick, Batel being infected, all he can say to Chapel is, "I believe in you," and then he's gonna send her help in the form of Spock, or or when they're trying to figure out well, how to at least warn Starfleet from this big swarm of the Gorn coming. Like, what do we do? Then he goes, Pelia, can you come up here, please? Like, give me something, right? So, and which is different from Kirk, because you know, Kirk's very much he's got to be involved in the solution, or he feels like he has to contribute to the solution in some manner. Um, which is different than what Pike is displaying right now. Um, and of course, in in TOS, just by the nature of TOS and when it aired, there was not really the forum in those shows for Kirk to be as invested or as developed with some of the minor characters and those red shirts, those minor like red shirts
Yeah,
that were on the show, right? But
right.
that is like that's a fundamental difference between like Kirk and 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 Pike, because Kirk was never as close to individual death on some of his, junior officers as I think Pike is experienced.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very, very, very well
Yeah.
said, Chris. Very well said. I actually think it would be fun and very interesting upon the completion of Strange New Worlds to go and do a Kirk versus Pike captain case study, right? Where we look at Pike's command from Strange New Worlds and the Cage versus Kirk's command of the Enterprise and compare and contrast like command differences, philosophical differences, things like this across that period. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun.
Um,
Yeah.
but yes, I always found it funny in TOS. Again, it's made in the 60s versus now,
Yeah.
so there are differences, right? But in TOS, how somebody would die and Kirk would be sad for like a 6/10 of a second, and he'd be like, "Oh, I can't, we're gonna miss Ensign Ricky." All right, all right. Well, yep. Lieutenant, warp factor 2 and on to our next mission.
Yeah.
Like that, and it's just this. I
Like
mean, I
that.
know it's television and
Yeah.
they had to end the episode because it was a new episode every week and so forth. But I always just kind of found it funny the way in which you see the differences between the captains and how they mourn versus not mourn or whatever. That being
Yeah.
said, I found it fascinating the differences between Pike and Kirk so far in this far into Strange New
Yeah.
Worlds. Now, another thing I wanted to say, Chris, as we you know kind of close out this episode, this first episode of season 3, um, I want to get your input. Well, okay, let me do this first.
Hmm?
This episode has continued the trend for us as an audience and for the Federation of continuing to learn more and more about the Gorn, right? So in this episode alone, we learn that Gorn ships digest people for energy to power their ship and they also for their people to eat them. So there's that.
Indeed, we learned that. Yes.
I mean that kind of makes their ships alive a little bit,
Yeah.
sort of, right? Yeah. So I guess not thinking about, yeah, it's kind of matrixy, right? It is
Hmm.
very kind of matrixy with the idea of that. We understand what makes the Gorn go 90-90 and then what makes them go
Hmm.
batshit crazy,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? We know the
Yeah.
differences. So we know that like Godzilla, this idea of like radiation and this
Yeah.
idea of certain patterns in the life of a star system and in the binary stars that apparently is kind of where their homeworld lies somewhere cloaked in between, we think. So we kind of learn maybe that's where their homeworld is. We learn about the ships. We learn that they don't fly using visuals, but are probably biometric based
Hmm.
type of navigation and things like that. So we learn a lot about the Gorn just in this episode alone. That doesn't even include all the stuff we've learned up to this point. I love the canon that is being built around a species that was only seen in one episode of TOS.
Yeah. Yeah. They found a a great avenue and world to explore for sure in this from that one episode of TOS Arena. It
Yeah.
was just yeah, this is perfect. This is the perfect kind of species to go in and explore. There's no need to create like a brand new one. There's just gold, so much gold to go in here and explore it with the Gorn.
There really is. The only concern I have, and it's mostly because there's only about 10 episodes a season, and we know there's only gonna be five
Mm-hmm.
seasons, is I just and so far I don't think they have, but I just hope that it's not something where it's like, oh well, we're just gonna make another Gorn episode, right? And we're just gonna
Hmm.
rely on doing Gorn stuff to make the show full of action and adventure. I don't think they need to do that. So far they haven't. I don't think that the Gorn have been overdone yet. I just hope they don't get to that point, right? Where
Yeah,
the
me
Gorn
too.
have just been overused.
Yeah, yeah. now I think there's a lot more to explore on the Gorn. You know, they can um they've introduced so many other elements. No, for me it'd be like no longer make it a more no longer a horror or action kind of themed Gorn episode, but now there's like, okay, it's more of like, how did they evolve? Where did they come from? What's their motivation? What do they want? Right?
Yeah,
Are they just trying to conquer the sector? You know, what do we want? You know,
that's true.
who leads them?
Yeah,
What's their
no,
hierarchy? Yeah.
that's a great point. You make an
Yeah.
absolutely great point on that. I would love to see an episode Gorn centric, maybe in season 4, or season 5, where maybe not season 5, that probably would be too far down the road, but maybe season 4, where they find the Gorn homeworld
Hmm.
and either they realize, yeah, they're just mindless killers, or maybe there's some sort of societal structure there that is more evolved than they think. And it becomes more of an exploration episode
Yeah.
rather than, like you said, an action kind of horror thing. But that's the thing, though, with what they've done with the Gorn. They have brought a species who was a guy in a clearly rubber suit marching around like a 1960s Godzilla character
Hmm. Hmm.
fighting Kirk to a menacing, terrifying, something you see in your worst nightmares type of creature that scares the bejesus out of you and it makes you terrified and drives a sense of fear into the audience and into the characters. And so I think from that vantage point, it's been the Gorn story arc has been a massive success in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, completely. Um, I think in one of the earlier seasons with the Gorn ship, they had this magnificent sequence that involved the black hole, and I think the
Yeah,
enter yeah, that it was something to do with the black hole, and the Enterprise was using the black hole or navigating around it while it was engaged in
yeah.
in battle with the Gorn ship, and you know, that was excellent and so creative, as well as this one, as well as this Hegemony part one and part two. Just so created. You know, using a lot of vibes from past like science fiction that it could
Interstellar, anybody?
Interstellar.
Interstellar? Yeah.
Oh yes,
That
yes.
black hole scene in Strange New Worlds reminded me so much of the
Oh
Interstellar scene
yeah.
with Gargantuan, the black hole in that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
totally.
sure. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up like a little bit of the aesthetic of this episode that I thought was terrific. I want to see how you feel
Loss,
too.
Lossy.
There was a lot of yeah. Every time we go to the bridge, there's a lot of gloss,
But I will say, Chris, on Strange New Worlds, I feel like the gloss is a little more toned down and it fits because of the different colors they use versus Discovery, which is just this high glossy gloss
yeah,
and it doesn't fit. So I feel like I don't know how you feel with the gloss in Strange New Worlds, but I definitely feel like it fits and it's a lot better than what we've seen in some of the other new Trek stuff.
yeah. I agree. I agree with that. I like the red alert symbol is the red alert symbol. I know we've talked about that before, but red alert symbol from Star Trek 2,
Yeah.
um, and the other Star Trek films, which was great. I really like the aesthetic of their uniforms were great. And then their away team uniforms, kind of their maybe their special operations uniforms.
Yeah, like the
Pike.
commando type the
Hmm.
black ones with the vest and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah, those are awesome.
those look terrific.
I would love to find one of those to be able to like cosplay or wear to a
Hmm.
convention and
Yeah.
like dirty it all up and bloody it up and make it look like you've been fighting the Gorn. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think Captain Batel and Nurse Chapel at one point it might have been part one of Hegemony, but they were wearing this nice field jacket. I was like, oh, that field jacket's like really,
The black one.
really, yeah, the black one.
So I
It
have one of
looks good.
those. I have one of those.
Oh, yes.
Or I have one
Yeah.
that was made modeled after off
Hmm.
the Strange New Worlds one. It's made by a company called Hero Within. Remember
Hmm.
we
Yeah,
had
remember
the
that.
owner of Hero Within on with us. So I don't know if they still make them or not, but it's a fantastic jacket.
Yeah.
So yes, you're
So they
absolutely
did
right.
so they did a great job, you know. I do like I very much like the aesthetic of all of the uniforms. of the ships for the most part without too much gloss that might blind me, and it's just it is it's beautiful, and the way they have light, their use of light like in the show is great, and how they use light on the characters' faces, that is they use that a lot in Strange New
Very
World. So
TOS-esque, that
hmm
1960s era style with the light on the face.
yeah.
And in Hegemony Part II, as I mentioned earlier, those close-ups of Pike and the other characters when they're getting closer and closer into the binary stars, and it's really bright, and that brightness of that light that they're using for the visuals and drives up the intensity of the scene, and you make it
hmm
that makes you feel like you're going in there with them, and how close they're getting to sudden death and the ship blowing up from all the radiation, the heat, and everything else that's going on. You're right. I mean, the light, I think, is. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a big part of the visual aesthetic of this show, and I think it's been amazing.
Yeah, me too. I'll probably watch it again, Hegemony like part two, maybe this week. Before I watch Wedding Bell Blues. I think that's the name of the second one. Which I did watch like the first like couple seconds of it. So they'll be fun to talk about the whole episode when
Yeah,
I get to talk about when I watch the whole episode and we talk about it soon.
yeah,
Be
yeah,
fun.
for sure. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and it's actually a question for you, Chris, is from your vantage point, what have we learned about the characters in this start of season three? And it doesn't necessarily have to be everyone, but if there's a specific character or characters, and I know you've mentioned a little bit of this and kind of answered this a little bit already, but from what we knew at the end of season two and now in this first episode going into the second episode of season three, uh, is there any additional things we've learned about these characters that we didn't know or they didn't really discuss or show much in the first two seasons
Yeah, I have
that
two.
that stood
Yeah.
out and that where you
Yeah.
think are important to you? Yeah,
Yeah, and I'd love to hear you share as well after I share what I'm thinking. There are two. Um the two characters I think about strongly in this one are Leon and Captain Pike. So Le Leon is an individual that has gone through traumatic experience like in her childhood, lost her brother, um was very violent with the Gorn right there. She didn't know like how she could survive, but she is a survivor, right? And so, and we always knew that
she's a
about her.
Noonien
Yeah,
Singh. Come on,
she's a
I
Noonien
mean,
Singh. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. She is a Noonien Singh, but we always knew like she was a survivor, right? She is very very independent. Um, and I would say, um my take on Leon at the moment in her character, probably reluctant to ask for external help, because she's a very like independent person and has gone through a lot. But in the moments I'm going to talk about are these really small moments with Leon and Pike. But I think this still reinforces Leon's kind of sense of like independence. It's just the small moment where she comes out of the cocoon and they're inside the Gorn ship and like this is not a good situation, right? And she finds herself um in a panic, in a flashback, going, oh, okay, what's happening? But it's just that moment of calmness where she closes her eyes, she breathes in, and she goes, she remembers all she's gone through, and she goes, I can do this. And then she breaks it down step by step by step. What's she gonna do next? Because she's the one that gets them all out, right? I mean, it's because of her actions. I would say she's the primary force that gets them out of the Gorn ship. But it's her going. This is reinforcing kind of like what she thinks about herself, and reinforcing like what we've seen as her as a character is she believes in herself, and she's independent, and is that small moment I can do this in the kind of this face of like this moment of like, well, how much worse can it be? This is like the one of the worst situations you can be, right? You're in this Gorn digestive chamber. So, so that is for Leon. That is what kind of I learned about Leon and kind of reinforcing with Leon. For Pike, for me on Pike, which was very special, and I think a huge moment for me with Pike and a huge moment for this episode is these closing moments in the episode when he goes up to Batel, and she's in sick bay and she's in that enclosed room and it's just him and it's just her and it's really just him because she's sleeping at the moment.
Yeah.
And and Pike has relied on everybody else. Right? He's made the final decision, but he has had to put his faith, because it has been he has had to put his faith in everybody else to help get them through this episode. You know, who's gonna, please, like how are we gonna distract or the Gorn from invading like Starfleet? How are we gonna save Batel? Like how are we gonna get to the planet to help the colonists and the other folks from Batel's crew? And and he's overwhelmed and he drops to his knee and he goes, Dad, yeah, I think you're right. And he starts praying. So it's this acknowledgement of like, not for me looking at Pike, it's his acknowledgement of like accepting belief in others. Because he said to Chapel earlier, he said, I believe in you, right? He has faith in everyone else. So it's like he's acknowledging and realizing, or accepting, all of those different words, that um, some he can't control all of these things, and all he can do is believe in his people. He's got faith in his people, or believe like in he kind of acknowledges right there. He goes, Dad, you're right. Believe in something higher than him
Yeah.
at the end when he's with Batel, because he can't bear to lose like Batel. Like she means like so much to him. So for Pike, that is kind of the moment of what I feel like I learn about Pike at the moment is uh, he's he's surrendering to faith a little bit, his faith in others and faith in a higher power. And then with Leon is like almost almost the opposite, but there's very much contrast in Leon going, I can do this because I'm such a badass. Like
Yeah.
Leon is, right, but I can do this because I've gone through so much. So those Leon is such she's such a capable person. Obviously, she's got so much skill, so much like um she's so smart, got so much experience, so confident. Um and I think that's just a great contrast between the two of them.
Yeah.
That's what I felt taken from Leon and Captain Pike.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I for me, I would say ditto. Basically. So you took the words right out of my mouth. I think those are the two characters I feel like I learned more about that maybe we didn't already know coming into season three. Right. I do agree with you that this episode just further continues to prove why Lon's my favorite character and why she really is a badass and such a great choice to be the security chief for the ship. And she's put in charge a lot and so forth, and she gets the job done. She can lead people. There's a lot of things that make her great. Uh, Something else that I learned uh, about a character that maybe didn't already know prior to coming into season three
Mhm.
is that so Pelia, we didn't really know kind of her relationship with Scotty as much either.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of the way in which her and Scotty work together, the way in which she maybe kind of nudged a little bit or sometimes
Hmm.
pushed Scotty in a certain direction. Who knows? Maybe she's one of the reasons why Scotty becomes a miracle worker, the miracle worker as they call him. That's another possibility. But yeah, definitely. And for me, Pike, it's the vulnerability piece, kind of
Hmm.
like what you alluded to, right? The
Yeah.
vulnerability of that he shows when he's just so utterly helpless, and he does not have anything he can do, and he's solely reliant on others around him to make things happen. He has to make decisions, but he doesn't actually execute, maybe in the same way that a Kirk would, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this episode was an incredibly fantastic start to season three. And I know can't wait to talk about the next episode.
Mm.
It's great in its own way. It's much different than this one, but also fun. Um, and I'm really looking forward to this season and to see what they bring us. For those of you watching or listening, we are going to have a surprise guest for episode three. More to come on that soon, but we are going to have a surprise guest for episode three, and we can't wait to share that with you. And I know you're going to love this individual's insight into the third episode. But I really enjoyed this episode, Chris. I thought this really started out the season with a bang.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's great to see Strange New Worlds. Yeah.
It is, man. Every time it comes back, I'm like, man, I miss this show. I miss this show. And it I mean, it's getting to get 5 seasons, which is great, but I wish it was getting more because there really is so much they can do. There's so much storytelling. And season two and season three, well, season one as well, I guess, we're getting a little bit of a different flavor than the TOS era that this takes place in.
Yeah.
And that is that this is a little more serialized, right? This is a little more building off of, episode one built off of episode two. Episode one built off of the previous season's finale. Episode two has some carryover from the first episode, and so forth, right? So I think I love that we get new adventures, but we also get some serialization to it.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
idea that we're going to continue stories and continue arcs while also having that new adventure of the week kind of mentality, which I think is it's a great blend of new and old.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can incorporate background of the different characters as they grow, because that allows the continuity allows the characters to grow for them and
Yeah,
for us.
yeah.
And that's excellent.
And
Yeah.
the storytelling in this has been great. I mean, I think honestly, in my opinion, one of the best episodes as far as storytelling goes in Strange New Worlds
Hmm.
was that episode Among the Lotus Eaters
Hmm.
that we talked about. That episode has really stuck with me hard because I know we got really deep into that and had some really tough discussions about the ideas of Alzheimer's and dementia and this idea of forgetfulness and there was so much that we unpacked there. It's to me, Among the Lotus Eaters is a prime example of how good the storytelling has been. I think in Strange New Worlds.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
So,
excellent.
and we obviously look forward to more great storytelling as this season continues in season four and five as well. But
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we hope you are too. If you're watching or listening to us all over the globe in the interwebs, we greatly
Interwebs, yeah.
appreciate it. We hope that you've enjoyed season three, episode one of Star Trek: Strange New World, entitled Hegemony Part II, named after the Gorn hegemony. And we look forward to bringing you episode number two very, very soon here at the time of this episode premiering. And look forward to working our way through season three with you and sharing our thoughts and our inputs. And we hope that you do the same, whether it's through email or messages on social media or comments on YouTube or whatever. Please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions about what you see and think from Strange New Worlds as we work our way through this third season. So, all right, Chris, this is awesome. Look forward to the next episode of Strange New Worlds with you very soon, my friend.
It's awesome, my friend. Look forward to talking soon about episode number 2. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to seeing
yeah, it's going to be great. All right, everybody, take care. As always, thank you, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.